deliver this project should have a reasonable percentage manufactured within the country, rather than having like 99% of this project or this equipment sourced from abroad. Yet we want to be able to say that these are projects that are delivered by Nigerians with confidence. Because invariably, when you check at the end of the day, you still have to maintain this equipment. You have to have the know-how to do so. If you do not, you have to send this equipment abroad, or you have to bring professionals to be able to get this equipment up and running. So my question is, how do we ensure that this challenge is taken care of? Because at the end of the day, it is still a problem for us in delivering quality projects as a people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You want to respond, sir?
The truth of the matter regarding the subject of equipment is that they are capital intensive machineries. I keep telling people that this engineering business we are talking about, aside from the fact that one is actually exerting his professional ability in the industry, a good number of people have the mindset of doing business, and nobody wants to get himself involved in a business that is not profitable. Having established the fact that most of these equipment that are used for this industry are capital intensive, the question you ask yourself is, how many individuals will be willing to invest their resources on such equipment? And if for any reason they make the effort to make provision for this equipment by sourcing loans from the banks and other financial institutions, how easily is it for them to recoup their investment? That makes it difficult for people to get involved in such ventures. It brings us back to the question of who is creating the opportunities. There is a common adage in Yoruba land that says, "Àgbàtọ́ là ń gbọ́mọ ọ̀lẹ." Tó ní àbí owó ojú àjọ yẹn àgbàlagbà. That is, if you want to rescue the handicapped, you must go the whole house. Halfway is no measure in this matter. Yes, windows of opportunities have been opened by the government for indigenous professionals, but the wherewithal to participate actively in these open windows of opportunities, do we have it? You recall I mentioned in the course of that presentation that we require preparation. Part of the preparation is your ability to make provision for the things you will use to execute these projects. If the MDAs are asking you to come and bid for jobs, those of us that are familiar with the system, there are certain requirements they will ask of you. I did mention earlier on that the MDAs, they are not Father Christmas organizations. So there are certain things they require of you. But the question is, how do you get these things when you don't have the wherewithal? It brings us back to the starting point. The government has to help us out. Yes. Because for instance, if somebody struggles to buy a payloader, for instance, you are involved in a road project, and you struggle one way or the other to secure a payloader. After that first contract, if you don't have another one that is coming in easily, what happens to that equipment? It becomes a burden to you. You know, so but whereas if the government make deliberate attempt, just like the window of opportunities they have created with the executive order 5, if they make deliberate effort to procure the materials, the equipment, and start them somewhere for rentals, it makes the work easier for everybody. And when we are bidding for jobs that require such things, there will be a concession again that if you have the capacity, based on this project we are giving you, you can access this equipment for a particular price. Then that way, you do not have the burden tied around your neck. You know very well that when you are done with that particular task, you return the equipment, others will come and take it. Then you don't have to worry about the burden of getting entangled, with such equipment. Thank you.
The chairman is on the IT. The chairman is on the IT.
All right, thank you very much.
He's on the IT. The person that people send it is on the IT.
In fact, I was actually going to come to you. But before then, I think this was on my mind. Before then, I want to just quickly point, draw great attention to what we're going to do next after that. After the S is fixed, closing out on the comments, we're going to meet the pillars of engineering in Nigeria. And they will talk about their peer. We'll hear. And we will hear from them, what they think, how they all got there. And it is very, very important. I'm sure by the time we get to hear from them, you will be overwhelmed, you'll be old. But meanwhile, we want to hear from the SA, and she speaks from the heart, and she's going to tell us the truth on this, because it's very important. Now, over to you.
Thank you. Oh, the town planner is gone. He's around. Okay. So he asked the questions to say he's a little bit confused about the difference between indigenous and indigenized. He already defined it himself. Indigenous in this sense is any local construction company like Costain, while indigenized will be somebody who actually is registered in Nigeria, but still has that expatriate support. And I think essentially the advantage that the indigenous have over the indigenized over the indigenous is that equipment support and that capacity. And that's where we all must sit up and say, how can we match them? If we cannot match them equipment-wise because we missed it with the Ajaokuta, we lost it. I tell people, when you have opportunity, when the iron is hot, strike it. If you've lost it, it will take you years back to regain it. We're building the rail now. We're building the rail, all of the supports, the tracks, the ballasts, what you must do to make that rail, the locomotives. You cannot, so you will still go back to China. Because the two things that they have that they're using to override us is that equipment support, the capacity, that muscle, and the fact that capacity-wise, they keep updating themselves. We do not. You had my brother say, the tenacity that they put into it to say, this challenge, I'm going to take it. How many of us are ready to take on this challenge? When it's time, I cannot say I will get 10 bridge building engineering companies, locals, 10 bridge building as I speak now. 10 good one currently on ground as I say now. And I think it also boils down to leadership. If you would have a national government that will say, I have a development plan and I want to move with my locals. That is not to say I will not give the indigenized one some form of level playing ground for business, but I want to give advantage to my locals. And so the professional bodies, NSC, give me homegrown 15 Nigerian companies that after my 4-year tenure as a president, I will be able to say from these 50, I have homegrown tested one to do between me and you here in this house. At the end, in fact, when they will go for the bid for those 50 companies, for 50 will be down to 20 in the first year, and what will scatter them is money. We need to tell ourselves some home truth. We are where we are because of ourselves. So no government will want to take that risk to be saying, once I give them, they will scatter his money. In fact, they will lose focus. And I don't know what the NSC as a body is doing. I keep saying research, R&D. Because if we say, we are ready to go with you this all way, when you give people opportunity, when they go there, even on behalf of all of us, the first thing is like, what can I get here? What can I get here? There is no self-serving. And I'm saying this one, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not specific about, but it's what we have found out. And so that's why I said it's a soul-searching time. That when we live here, we will go back to ask ourselves, why are we like this? Where did we miss it? What will each and every one of us in our individual, in our quiet time, what will we do to now go around now and improve things? And so for me, yes, indigenous, you already know the difference. You know why they have that advantage. We lost the Dokuta, but what can we do? Infrastructure bank. If you have an infrastructure bank, and you know with construction companies, once you don't have the equipment power, you are even gone. If they give you that job, if the equipment that you need, your rental fees, what is going to consume it, and you're not able to manage it well, they cannot break even. You cannot. I recollect many years ago when I was site manager, almost every infrastructure around in Lagos, I was a project manager. And so I would have meetings. My other German contemporaries are on the same table conference room with me every Saturday when you do your performance. And so your lost time on equipment, you're scientifically, if I say that I've done this, why is this job a commercial success or is not a commercial success? Because they are looking at their bank of equipment, what you have requested as a site here, Apapa, Ikeja, you requested this. How many hours did that equipment stay there? What did you deliver with it? What is that? That's what gives them that, because they are marking it. That equipment, otherwise if you don't need it, they take it to the free yard. So they have a free yard where they rather want the equipment in the free yard than for it to be on your site. So they put you under pressure to professionally perform and deliver. That's what we have not learned that art of training. When we see our equipment, everybody wants to buy equipment. You don't have to buy equipment. Yeah? It's a discipline to use the equipment that is the issue. That what will this activity do me? I want to do trench. How many cubic meters I want to? So when I acquire this equipment, because otherwise that equipment you'll be assuming because I have ownership of it, so I can leave it can be running engine, one operator, so you are not using it professionally well. How many hours has it worked? What has it delivered for me? But if you get an infrastructure bank and you begin to orientate the thinking of people to say, you don't all have to own. You can pool resources together and have an equipment bank. So it's dedicated for equipment. Maintenance, and what keeps the equipment running, even also the maintenance. When you want to do a mining plant, if you don't see a turnaround, a mining specialist, you cannot service that equipment. If it's a paper, you cannot until you see. So it speaks to the fact that there's a capacity that we do not have, and we need to get it. So that bank, that equipment bank, to be able to provide for the locals, get somebody who has a mechanical engineering background that understands what it takes to lease equipment. That if you say you apply for bid, they say you must have this one. Tell them that I have access to it in that equipment bank. The renter, they know what it is. They know what, so they can actually tell you, for this job I want to do, if I want to do this for the period that I know that I will deliver this thing, what will it cost me? They've given you, and that's you can ride on that on the back of the fact that they will give you that equipment. So the next thing is about capacity, and I've said it: capacity, capacity, capacity. Where does it start from? Training from the school level. As a government now, it's not everybody that must go to university. I keep saying it. We grew up knowing the trade schools and all of the rest. So So we're going back to the basics. Somehow 63-4, we lost it along the line. Still implementation, the normal Nigerian factor. But we have last bit. So we're trying to have regular schools that even you can go to school, but while you are in school, you must learn a skill. You can decide that it's photography that you want to, you are doing normal schooling, but you're also learning photography that earns you some income. If you decide that you want to stop your normal schooling and it's that skill that you want to now use for a living, for some reason, you're free to go. And if you decide to come back, it's a flexible trade, it's a flexible training. So we're about to start 12 of those schools now. That way, everybody is not saddled with the fact that I want to go to university, and at the end of the day, the best, the middle, I'm not without sense of modesty. Some people they are not supposed to be in university, they're supposed to be in technical schools, but they found themselves somehow because the kind of maybe the disparity or the complex that we give people who go to, so they force themselves to be in the university, and which is not good for us. So for me, yes, we can help us come if we all decide now that the think tanks, the elders in the society would actually see to the equipment back. And then also get the mechanical and the NSC, get people who run that back. That would be what locals will ride on. So once you have done that one, leadership, there's some level of jobs that only your locals must do. Beyond, it's only a particular, there's some drain. What is in a drain construction? What is in it? It's the simplest of all of roadway, straight roadway, not bridge, not a major highway. It's the simplest. But even at that, we have found out that we are wanting in our delivery. Either because we do not pay attention to details and our quality control. And in no time, people will say, they did this road, even in 6 months, the thing is fixed. So those are all of the issues that we can all as a body tell ourselves, enough is enough. For any local that they give, that local is a mirror which they look at all of us. And every local that has the opportunity to work must work in such a way and manner that you'll be speaking for everyone. I think that's my.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, we'll move on. Thank you very much. A round of applause for the essay again. A round of applause for her. Well, I'm going to now. I cannot continue. I cannot end this without listening to one person first before we go to this to the next item. And the man is a powerful speaker. When I was introducing him, I said, wow. Now I'm going to call him to give us a brief remark on what he said so far. Ladies and gentlemen, engineers in the room, welcome with me, Engineer Ajanaku, as he speaks to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. I would want to first and foremost appreciate Engineer H.O.B. Lawal. He represents everything that all of us have aspired to be. He has remained solid, firm, tested, and he has refused to yield. Can you please join me and put your hands together? Growing up, all of us were always Engineer H.O.B. Lawal, Engineer H.O.B. Lawal, and the man has remained steadfast. Thank you so much for being a good example, sir. God bless you and keep you for us. Local content. Where do you manufacture toothpicks in Nigeria? Where? In Nigeria, approximately 91% of toothpick is imported. In Nigeria, approximately 80% of shovels and spades are imported. In Nigeria, over 95% of coal is imported. That represents 16% of what the built industry actually uses as tools. And you're talking about equipment. When hoe, shovels, spades are typically imported. And the bottom line is our structure. And our structure begins with our education. If we get our education right, then we get the entry point, the foundation of our structure right. My brother, Professor Akomu, is in the house, teaching, struggling, laboring to produce engineers. But what is the mindset of the engineer that we produce? How do they think? Most of us are looking at equipment, we're not looking at tools. The trowel, those things, the simplest of the tools. How do we get them? Imagine we're in a country that needs about 3 to 4 million shovels and spades in a year. Dimension it economically and you will see how much we throw away to China on a yearly basis. And that is food for thought. If we are going to change the system, we must begin from the simplest things. Àwọn Yorùbá bọ̀ wọ́n ní ibi pẹlẹbẹ láti mọ́ lẹ̀jẹ̀. Most of us were overreaching. Nǹkan tó wẹ̀ ò tó ẹ̀fí gàngàn fà. We're talking about graders, Caterpillar, when we have failed woefully when it comes to spades and shovels. And we have not, over the years as an institution, properly dimensioned our position. Every time we come to programs like this and we speak a lot of beautiful grammar. But excuse me, what is the outcome? Fundamentally, our education is faulty because it is not outcome based. In the next 5 years, what is our economic focus? Even the central bank does not have it. And the central bank does not have it because the engineers, NSE, Koren, they are busy infighting and they have not maintained a particular position. So our problems are multidimensional, but we need to begin to deal with them from the simplest place. We're in a room full of brilliant minds, but unfortunately, what do we stand to give? It is not about what we want to take. What do we stand to give in this program? Most of us, we can speak so glowingly about Engineer H.O.B. Lawal, a lifetime of service. Can that be said for us too? We come here, it's so easy. Like the Americans say, talk is cheap. But what are we going to give when we leave this meeting? What will this meeting be known for? Are we going to leave this meeting and say, over the next 5 years, we're going to work with NSE? We are going to work with NSE to ensure that we give direction to local content. Myself and Engineer Akomu were on the local content committee. Asoyibo Repete. What did we achieve? Because even when you do it and it does not pay them, they throw it in the dustbin. Well, both of us are here. Plenty of work, sleepless nights, a lot of research. Thank you very much for the work, sir. God bless you, sir. But it amounted to nothing because some people could not make money off it. So the bottom line is this. If we are going to be effective, we must not just be intellectual, we must be focused. We must begin to cascade. Where do we start from? Where do we go to? And we must be smart about it. And by smart, I'm not talking about you're sharp, or you have ginger or swagger. I'm saying that you must be specific. Our objectives must be measurable. It is not about doing so many, it's about success in the little things. And that is where we must start. The essay said, can we say that in the next 4 years we're going to create 50 engineering companies that will construct 100 meters of drain successfully? If that is our objective, then how do we go about it? How do we train people to do exactly that? How do we get them equipment? How do we make it profitable? Those things are what we must go out of this meeting with. It is not enough for us to gather like this, but what is important is that we live here and we begin to make impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I did say that when you experience Engineer Janoku, you know you've experienced somebody. A round of applause for him, please. What a powerful speaker. Well, we quickly have to quickly recognize Alhaji Wahid Kadiri, past president. Nigerian Strong of South London, please, a big outstanding.